I gave a chipping tip that got over 4 million views. What was that tip and what did it do to help all 4 million golfers? So today I'm going to tell you what it is, and the best part is we're going to expand on it and actually add a couple new secrets to it. Now the tip that we gave had to do with bounce. Now bounce is your friend. If you only remember one thing from this video, it is this phrase. Bounce is your friend when it comes to chipping. So I'm going to talk about what it is, all right? We're going to talk about what changes it, all right? And then we're going to talk about something that's a little controversial. Hinge and hold versus the VLS coaching system. What are the differences? And why are some people like Hinge and hold is the only way to do it? And I'm like, I don't know about that. I think there's some other ways that you can chip. So first of all, bounce is the curve on the bottom of a wedge, all right? So every wedge has got some curve on the bottom. Now, designers put that curve, that bounce on the bottom because it makes shots easier. Next time you're at the golf course, you grab your set of clubs, look at the bottom of your wedge and compare it to your 7-iron. The bottom is different. And the reason it's different is because that bounce, that curve, allows the club to bounce through the turf. Now, why is that important when it comes to chipping versus a full swing? Well, simple. The biggest difference between a full swing and a chipping shot or chip shot is the rate at which the club is traveling. If I'm swinging a 6-iron and I'm swinging at 80 miles an hour for sake of discussion, and that leading edge grabs the ground, it's going to dig and it's going to take a divot. That's awesome. Matter of fact, it's what we teach here at the vertical line swing system. But if I have a wedge that's traveling at a very slow speed and that digs or hits the ground, you chili dip it, you chunk it, or you top it. All right, so that's why bounce is good and bounce is your friend, and that's why a designer puts it on there. Now, the question is what changes bounce and how can you navigate that so it works for you? Well, here's the first thing you need to know. The shaft position, forward, backward, is the easiest way to change the bounce. So if I set in here and I lean the shaft way forward, that decreases the bounce. That negates the bounce, okay? So as I move the club forward, the leading edge comes down and I lose the bounce. On the flip side, as I take the shaft and I move it backwards, the leading edge comes up off the ground and I add bounce. That's the first thing you got to know. And that's why in the vertical line swing system and in the short game book, all right, and all the different stuff that we've done, okay, we like to see the butt end of the club equal to the golf ball or maybe on the front side of the golf ball for a stock chip shot. We're not a big fan of having it lean way forward. We're going to talk more about the hinge and hold in a second here, all right? So the easiest way to change the bounce is the shaft angle. Now the other way that you can change the bounce, a couple different ways here, are the orientation of the face, right? If I take the club face and I close the club face, all right, that negates the bounce. That takes bounce away. If I rotate the face open, that adds bounce. That adds loft, of course, but it also adds bounce. So in our coaching system, the vertical line swing system, all right, we like to see the butt end of the club equal to the front side of the golf ball, and we like to see the club face slightly open, maybe, 4, 5, 6 degrees. Depends upon the shot. Nick, is this making sense or not? Okay, Nick thinks it's making sense and he gave us a thumbs up. Please give us a thumbs up and also be sure to put in the comments where you're from, how old you are, do you like the vertical line swing system, because we love hearing from you and we do our best to respond to all of those. So those are the couple things around bounce. Now there's one other thing I want to show you in bounce that has to do with the motion, all right, that you can actually be aware of to keep the bounce on the golf club, because that's the whole objective of this video. That's why 4 million people watched the other video, is to understand bounce, all right? So we've understood shaft position, face orientation, and the third way that you can change the bounce in a good way or a bad way is in the motion. When you swing the club back, if you hinge the butt end of the club towards the target, okay, see this, towards the target, the club head goes this way, the butt end goes that way. That in essence de-lofts the golf club. That in essence is a forward shaft lean. As a result, as you're probably learning, right? that takes bounce away. The alternative, and what we teach in our coaching system, is that the butt end of the club initially should move the same direction as the club head. So if the club head's going to go back towards Nick, the butt end better go back towards Nick. I don't want the butt end going towards that flag and the club head going back towards Nick. That's not going to work in our opinion, okay, in the vertical line swing system. So make sure that the butt end of the club is tracking and moving away. Now, how might you feel that? What's a tip that you could do? What's a drill that you could do? Well, pretty simple. So I got my glove right here. I got a Titleist glove. And what you're going to feel is as you start the motion that the Titleist right here pushes the club away and the Titleist works back and away from the target. This motion right here, so this will get the butt end of the club traveling in the right direction and allow you to keep bounce on the golf swing. Now, what about this hinge and hold method? And this has been one of the fun things, okay? If you've watched that video, put it in the comments, because there's a very famous golfer, a much better golfer than I am, okay? Guy he's probably gonna be in the Hall of Fame of golf if he's not already, who teaches the hinge and hold, one of the greatest chippers of all time. Okay, so I'm not going to have a chipping contest with this. If you know who it is, put it in the comments. It's kind of fun to see if you know who it is, because maybe you've seen that video. I'm never going to tell this person that he is wrong, okay? But here's what I do know, is that when we hinge it and we hold it, that de-lofts the golf club and has the ball come out low and hot. Now, that can work. It's not necessarily that's completely wrong. I just feel, in our experience, that it gives you less margin for error. Now, if you're very skilled and you can catch the golf ball first and then the ground every single time, like this particular individual, because they're going in the Hall of Fame, no problem. Okay, but for the vast majority of us, we can't do that. We can't control where that club hits the ground every single time, but I am going to give you a tip on that in just a second. So that's why the hinge and hold, where you hinge it and you hold it, isn't necessarily wrong. It just requires you to make sure that you always hit the ball and then the ground first. Whereas in our system, where we believe that bounce is good and bounce is your friend, okay, that gives us a larger margin for error. So if we hit a little bit behind it, no big deal. The club will bounce through the turf, the ball will get up in the air, and it will be a decent shot. So here's a great drill that you can do to help you control where the club hits the ground, which is one of the most important skills with chipping. It's to hit some chip shots balancing on your lead foot. So you take your lead foot, take your trail foot, put it down almost like a kickstand. See how it's there? It's there for balance and stability. I don't want you to feel like you're gonna fall over, right? And you just kind of balance it right there and just make some motions. And what you'll notice is that it'll keep your body and your head nice and steady over the golf ball, right? So I do a couple little of those. Let's do a little three setter. There's one, there's two, okay, there's three. So now I've got the feel. So when I get set in there, I'm gonna have that ball in the center of my heels, right? Okay, I'm gonna have the face just a little bit open. The butt end of the club is gonna be equal to the front side of the golf ball. And most important, in the motion, my weight stays forward, and I'm going to take that Titleist and I'm going to push it back to my main man, Nick. And when I do that, I learn how to use bounce, because remember, bounce is your friend. So now that you understand what bounce is, check out my next video where I give you my 3 big chipping mistakes.